Thanks for joining me today, everyone. This video is a continuation of some of the common tiling techniques I've learned, as well as some general information it might be helpful to some people getting started tiling their bathroom. For each of these walls, it's a mistake to start tiling from one side to the other, as oftentimes walls are not perfectly plumb or flat. A better way to tile is to use a laser level or mark lines directly on the wall, typically at or near the center point. These lines will act as reference lines and then tile outward to each side from there. Here you can see I'm putting up the edge of the tile. I used a PVC product that creates an edge of the tile that makes it look nice and clean. You could also use actual tile pieces. They're called bull nose. You could also use a chair rail or pencil trim, which are just thin pieces of tile. But you just need to have some way to cover up the unfinished edge of the tile so that it looks nice. And then also it helps protect the tile. The tile trim piece here, it's a lot cheaper and it gives you more options versus using the bull nose tile. Probably looks a little nicer, but it's more expensive. There's just a trade-off there. When you're doing the tile edging piece, you should try to do as much of it at one time as possible because the thin set behind it can dry and create issues when trying to get the tile flush and flat as a whole surface. That's why you see here I did the right side, just the regular tiles on the wall, and then the left side I did the tile trim piece along with all the tile pieces that would be directly against that tile edging piece. I also did a laser mark here and I used a marker and I drew them on the outside edge. That's the far left of the tile edging piece. So that way when I put down the thin set and then I put the tile edging piece up, I'd still be able to see the laser or the marker or both at the very outside edge of the tile edge piece. Here I am hammering off these wedges. These tile wedges are really great, but you got to be careful. You got to really hit them with the hammer right from the side, from that one certain angle, so that you're pushing the wedge off and at the same time knocking out the little holder for the wedge that keeps things level. The yellow wedge is reusable, so I soak them in what's called sulfamic acid. This stuff is really great. It's a weak acid, but you always want to wear gloves and eye and face protection when you're working with it. You soak them in that, and it's really easy to get the thin set off. You can get the thin set off of the tile, or you can get the thin set off of the plastic wedge really easily if you just soak them in the sulfamic acid. Cutting around the valves on this valve side, I used an angle grinder here. It had a special tile cutting / grinding blade for it, and it worked out really well. The blade was only $20 on Amazon, and I used it up. It was a wonderful blade. It worked really well. Angle grinder is a great way to cut these because they have a lot of speed and they're going to make nice, relatively clean cuts in your tile. If the cuts are going to be exposed, it's important to go back and sand them down, usually with a diamond sander. They make these little diamond sanding sponges that work really well for it. Otherwise, in the case of this valve, it was just going to be covered up with an escutcheon anyway, so I just cut it out.
You can see here this is looking quite good, but there are still a lot of tiny little cuts I have to make. So over on the edge here, all this has to be, I have to make these tiny little cuts here, little slivers, maybe not slivers, but they're 2.5 inches or so along there, and then over here, and then more of the cuts here, and then finally all along this edge here, across the top, and then on the inside over here as well. Whole bunch of tiny little cuts.
Thanks for watching, everyone. You can see this mostly covers the tile, just a few little pieces. But for the most part, tiling on the shower is done. I hope to see you again soon, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.